Okay.
She graduated with honors, and she designed a toy that could be produced at Goodwill Industries by handicapped workers and sold. And she also developed a lot of clothing for handicapped women to use on babies, for changing them and dressing them using Velcro. And I don't know, I'm not so sure of exactly the extent of it, but that's quite a very interesting field. So then she had been working, I think she had a summer job, or somehow she was working for a designer named Noel Mayo. And he said, if you ever need a job, come to me. When you get out of college, come to me. So she was out of college, graduated on middle of the week, came home, moved home, and got a job, started working for him on Monday. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's where she met Gary. And Gary and Ginny also worked for a place, Daroff Designs. So they've been in the design scene and in Philadelphia for quite some time. And they moved in together. I'm trying to think. I know they had an apartment, I think on 10th Street, which was very nice. And Gary started collecting hats from all over the world. I used to always bring him a hat when I went on a trip. And they also had an apartment on another street, I think Addis Street. And that was unfortunate because the building burned. They could have been killed. The only casualty was their cat. Didn't make it out of the fire, but Jenny had been collecting fabric. Whenever she went to a fabric store, she bought cloth that she thought was pretty and would be made into something. So she lost all of her cloth in that fire, and a lot of other stuff. I'm not sure. They got married in Jurgen's church in Malden, and I walked her down the aisle. Have a very pretty dress, expensive dress, which I still have. And Shelley was the maid of honor. And Jim Lowe was Gary's best man. And his father and mother, Edith and Norm, were very, very nice people, and a very, very nice family she married into. So Jurgen did okay by marrying two of my girls.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he had a beautiful church there in Malden, and we went to the rectory for the wedding party at reception. And Jenny went to a caterer, and we had the things made and brought in, and Nesla sat in the front row at the wedding with Oma, and I think talked every minute. This little voice. How old would you have been then?
What year was that?
I don't know. I think 1970.
No.
It's like 78.
I was just born in 1978.
It's gotta be. I thought it was. Oh, that's why that date's. That was your birth year.
That was my birth year. So if I was talking, Endel wasn't alive?
Mm-mm.
So it was between 1978 and
Well, the
1981.
interesting thing was, it was quite an unusual wedding party because Gloria was pregnant and so was Gail.
Okay, so it was 1980 then.
Mm-hmm.
It was 1980 because then Nikki was born.
It was 1980.
Right, and Endel was
Now,
born.
is your voice
1981.
coming on this tape?
Yeah.
Okay. It was 1980, and both the weird thing was both Gloria and Gail were pregnant.
Uh-huh.
So that was an interesting wedding party. And then, as I say, Nesla was little. And she jumped and had so much fun at that wedding. She jumped and hopped and zipped around, and she got so excited that she threw up all over the new couch.
Do you hear that?
But anyway, we had the reception at the rectory,
You missed it.
which was on Clifton Street.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a caterer bring in the good stuff, the little spinach pies and some kind of a chicken dish. Ginny picked it all out. At that point, she was not a vegetarian, really. Or at least I remember we had chicken. We had a beautiful wedding cake and had a very, very nice affair, but very subdued. And cousin Nesla came, because at that point she lived in New Hampshire. Nesla and Jerry, and I don't know if Lisa was there. No, their daughter Carolyn was probably there, and Lisa maybe. So that was the wedding party, and Jim Lowe, and he was living with a woman named Vicky. It was very nice, had a really cute boy, about an 8-year-old kid. And that was the wedding party. But the funny thing was we had a lot of pictures taken. Standing on the porch, there was a big porch on that house.
Mm-hmm.
And both these two pregnant women were standing next to me, and I had glasses that adjust to the sunlight. They get dark. Come to find out there was a mistake in the prescription. So one would get dark and the other would get... So I looked like a pirate. Two pregnant women and this pirate next to them with this one dark eye. But now on their honeymoon, they went to Disney World. And that was neat because they're both designers. And they got to see the inner workings of all the design studios down there where they make the signs and the costumes and everything. And when they came back, I'm trying to think when they bought a house on 8th Street. And Ginny started her business. And she had a business which, here again, it was a house that had, the first floor was almost a disaster. It had been a dentist's office, and they had to fix that up into a living room. Had a beautiful marble fireplace and a nice back patio, but it turned out that Ginny got so busy, it just wasn't large enough for her business. So that was nice. That was 8th Street. And then they bought the house on 10th Street where they live now, which was big enough so they could convert the whole first floor into an office space. And then they also had a garage which had been turned into a playhouse for the nursery school next door.
Right.
So that became part of their whole office concept. So, and then at one time the business kept growing. They rented a place on South Street and fixed that up. That was a very nice business office. But in terms of Ginny's business, they're doing well, and they have an office now on 4th and Market, which is historically very important to
Right.
Philadelphia.
So that was just Ginny getting married, and then Shelley was 15, so she was young. She was home for a few more years after Nick died, and then what was that like?
Very good grades and a very good record in high school, and was always very smart, did well, but she had two or three strikes against her, because when she showed up at English class, for example, the teacher would say, "Oh, Gehshan, Shelley Gehshan, oh, are you Gloria's sister, or Gail's sister. And of course, Gloria was very smart, did well. Gailey did so Shelley had these expectations that she had to do well. So she fooled them. She wasn't going to try, she didn't want to be like her sisters.
Oh no.
That was unfortunate. But she's equally as smart, but she didn't try as hard, because why should I? I can never reach their ultimate. The teachers had such glowing opinions of them. So she was kind of a maverick. And she liked to sing. She was in the chorus, and she played the flute. So I think that she got kicked out of the chorus because, or the teacher didn't think, or the choral leader, Mr. Landis, didn't think you should knit while you were singing. She said, well, I can do both things at the same time, which she could. Very good with her hands. She learned to knit, and she learned to do macrame, which is difficult. She used to make macrame pocketbooks, and she sold one for $75.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of twisting, and she's very good. She practically taught herself to sew, and she could make as much as a man's suit with all the padding and shoulder pads and interfacing. Very clever, self-taught. Not wanting to take any suggestions from anybody. She was going to do it. And she did. And my mother used to be so proud of her because she would try things. And one summer I remember Gloria worked at the Naval Air Station. Gailey worked next door at the spice factory. I'd have to go pick them up because we only had one car. And while I was gone, she'd make the supper. And she'd try all these difficult recipes and, did quite well. But when she went to Cornell, of course, she majored in liberal arts, whereas Ginny was in the human ecology, which is more practical, hands-on type of thing. And Shelley lived in a dormitory, which here again, Nick would have flipped, was co-ed, a co-ed dorm. They had to share all the facilities. And that's how she met Jeff.
Okay.
And of course, Jeff was from a...
Keep talking, I just need to get
Okay,
something.
Jeff was from a well-to-do Jewish family. And they had a lot of friends that would be having a hall meeting, and they were always impressed because Shelley would sit and knit throughout the meeting, and they thought it was pretty neat that she would not waste time. In other words, she could do two things at once,
Yep.
which she could.
Well, knitting is sort of a passive.
Yeah, right. Knitting is fun to do. You see something grow and you create something. So Shelley and she had a very good job at the library. And while Ginny was in college, she worked with the caterers and did a lot of receptions and parties where she earned extra money. And that was a big help to us because of the tuition.
Right.
So they were both extremely good managers of their time, and it's carried on through to their married lives and their business world. And I'm very proud of them because they're able to do a good job at work, a good job at home, good parenting.
When did Shelley marry Jeff?
Well, they got married a couple of years after Ginny. That would be 1982.
Wait,